missing someone. Love with all your heart. Missing someone. Love with heart.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So this week I have a client who has been with me once before. So her last appointment was a few years ago. You can see her regrowth is really long. The last time that we did her hair, I did an Underlight on her, and now she's wanting to do and transition her hair into something like a silver balayage, something more all over and blended. So the challenge here today is really blending the solid underneath and then also trying to match the top dark to the bottom so it doesn't look doesn't look funky at all. So today we're going to be doing my signature balayage and foliage technique that I do on a lot of my clients. So if you're new here, I usually will start in the back and do a detailed hairline there. That one I did a little bit, not more of like a baby light, I would say more of like a medium sized weave, because I want to give her a lot of impact here. And then I'm going to go into my center parting section that I do on majority of my clients. So after that weave, I'm going to do another slice and then continue where I take the center part and really just try and get her as light as possible. So since that top part is pretty dark, I am trying to keep my slices really close together so that it gives her an overall lighter appearance and doesn't look two-dimensional. So as I'm slicing, some of the key things that I'm looking for in a slice is I want to make sure that my slices are see-through enough. This is going to ensure a really nice, clean, even lift. If I take a slice that's too thick and I really can't see through the hair on the foil, then that's going to kind of mess up the lift, in my opinion. I feel like if you take a section that's too thick, you can possibly get a really uneven lift, especially on hair that's this dark. You want to try to get the cleanest lift possible, and the roots are just so long, so if you see any unevenness or if it does lift uneven, you will be able to see it, especially on hair that's this dark. The other thing I want to mention is I am using foils that are really long. I'm not folding up to the foil anywhere like in the mid area. I really want that to kind of stay flat, because I've found with the lighteners that I'm using, which is the Blonde Me Schwarzkopf lightener, if you fold up the foil, sometimes it can move around the lightener and then create some warm spots in some areas. So to avoid that, I always try to lay my foils flat and try to get a really clean, even lift that way. So as I'm slicing her here, I am keeping my foils, I would say maybe like a 1/4 inch apart. I am trying to be mindful and try to make her as blonde as possible, so we are trying to keep them a little bit closer together, but not necessarily so close to the fact that where she feels super solid, because she did show me a picture of mine that was more blended at the root, so that it gives her really soft grow out when this does. And considering that she hasn't seen me in a couple of years, I feel like she's looking for something that is very like low maintenance and that will grow out and just last her maybe another few years, which is totally fine by me. I never try to pressure my clients to come in any sooner if they don't want to, unless they're looking for something that is really high maintenance, and then I kind of tell them like to achieve this look, it is very high maintenance and then you have to come in. And those are the clients that I'm talking about that are like more of solid touch up, but she's looking for something that is very blended and soft and slightly dimensional but still nice and bright compared to what she came in with. So I am trying to foil her on the heavy side, but not too heavy to the point where she feels too solid. So, like I was saying, considering her history of when she came in and like how long she waited, which is totally fine by me, no big deal. Because of that, I asked her if she wanted to have a money piece, and she didn't really have a preference to begin with. So she asked for my opinion, and in my opinion, I told her if we do a money piece that is a little bit bolder, a little bit brighter in the front, kind of slightly more on the solid side, the regrowth will start to bug you a little bit sooner because it is brighter, it is more solid, and against her dark hair, having something that's so solid and so bright grow out against something that is so dark can really leave such a stark line of demarcation. So I told her the other option, if she didn't really have a preference, is I would probably recommend not doing a money piece on her so that everything kind of grows out really pretty and soft, and she can go just that itty bit more time before her roots really start to bug her. Because I really do find that clients who get money pieces, they tend to come in a bit sooner to where they feel like they have to come in within that like 3-month mark, because the money piece really does grow out a bit harsh on the hair, especially when you're really dark. I would say like a level 5 and below. So we chose not to do a money piece. So instead of doing like a slice or anything around the hairline, I did about 2 baby weaves to kind of blend that out. And the reason why I didn't do a slice there is because I don't want it to look harsh. I want it to look slightly more on the blended side. So that's why I feel like 2 baby weaves, leaving in some dimension and softness around the face, will kind of mimic a slice in a very soft way. So as I'm connecting that front money, since we're not doing anything lighter in the front, I'm just going to do 1 weave you can see on the hairline, and then pretty much connect that front and the back here with another more of a slight medium weave like I did in the very back right above the ear. But then after this foil, I will be continuing doing my slicing pattern to try and get the most amount of impact with each foil. So now you can see my assistant Emily, she is separating the hair. So I want to discuss reasons why I do this. So one of the reasons, let's say a client has a lot of mineral buildup on their hair. I don't know if you guys ever experienced it, but sometimes the hair doesn't feel super clean if a client just washed it, or maybe they're using a really bad shampoo. Who knows? But sometimes when that does happen, I do find that when there's a lot of mineral buildup, or maybe just like some bad shampoo buildup, it could be anything, honestly. I feel like separating the hair from the foils, especially when they're long like this, prevents any bleeding, because I do find with the Blonde Me lightener, if there is a ton of mineral buildup, it can expand and like sometimes it will bleed through the foils. So to prevent that, I will separate the hair to the sides. And then the other reason why we separated it to the sides is because I want to tip out some of her hair. So in the beginning, I let you guys know that she was a previous client and we did an Underlight. And Underlight is a very solid application underneath the temples of the head. And so since the top part of her hair doesn't really have any highlights whatsoever, it's all dark from root to end. If I don't tip out some of the areas that are in the top section that doesn't have any old underlight, it's gonna look slightly disconnected. Like the color, I feel like just won't connect necessarily. So I feel like I have to do some tip outs to kind of mimic the underneath and just have everything blend a little bit better. So as I go through her hair, I will be actively trying to pick out those pieces that have dark all the way from root to ends so that it looks pretty cohesive when everything is all done. Okay, so I want to show you guys how I am going to be doing her tip out. So I make sure that the hair is leveled so that they're not tilted or any type of way, because it kind of will mess up the placement of the tip out. So make sure that their hair is leveled. And then you can see I'm doing a little weave to kind of pick out all of the dark. I'm doing a tease. And then notice how I am over directing her hair in front of her. So when you do any type of over direction, you be mindful when you over direct it, it will soften the line. So if I were to place this foil exactly where her hair naturally falls, then you'll see a lot of the lines that I'm going to be painting in. Not necessarily that I'm painting like harsh lines or anything, but I am kind of feathering up. But I feel like when you over direct the hair, it diffuses any type of placement even more. So you can see I'm really saturating those ends there, and then I'm going to be feathering up into the top part, trying to kind of mimic the placement of the underlight, so that everything looks nice and cohesive, like I said. But again, I am over directing in front of her so that it kind of soften and diffuses any type of line of demarcation. Another tip that you could be doing is you could tease and then weave, and then not only like I am over directing in front of her, but another way that you could even over diffuse a line even more is to over direct to the front and then lift the foil up pretty high. So you can see I am kind of lifting the foil off her shoulder. I'm not having it be placed right where it falls, just to kind of help with a little bit of the diffusing part. And then the other thing, you might have noticed that Emily did put some cotton in between some of the foils. So this is going to help prevent any type of like bleeding or any of the product to be like leaking through. And we do that on clients that will we see might have some mineral buildup or anything, or maybe even they just get really warm. Sometimes if a client runs on the hotter side, it can make the lightener process a little bit quicker, maybe even drip or leak a little bit. So it's just there for preventative measures. It's not there for anything else other than just to protect any of the product from coming through or seeping through. But we just like to take a precautionary measure because we never like to see any of those bleed marks or anything like that. But let's say we did. Let's say I didn't put any cotton and we did see some bleed marks. A little trick that I learned in a class is if you ever have bleed marks in your client's hair from foils, before you rinse them out, I would wipe the lightener off. And then if you have like a tube of permanent color of their same level or even like a level darker, you can literally grab the permanent color straight from the tube without developer and place it on those bleed marks and have it processed with the rest of the hair before you rinse out all the foils. And if you guys haven't tried it, you'll notice like that if you ever do try it, that it works literally instantly and you don't have to wait any longer. It saves me so much time because, you know, sometimes it happens. It's not like you did anything wrong with the foils. It just means that sometimes there's mineral buildup or anything that can cause any type of weird chemical reaction with the foils to make it puff up and bleed through. And that's really not your fault or anything. It's just whatever's on their hair. That can make that happen. So by now, I always try to take any like preventative measures to make sure that it doesn't happen. But you know what? Sometimes it still does. And that's just like a really quick, easy trick if that ever does, so that you don't waste time having it processed and then toning and all that. It can just literally process right then and there as you finish up processing up the rest of the foils. So this is what her hair looked like when we were ready to be rinsed. I would say her hair got to a really nice level 9 and 10. So our goal today, she wanted something silvery, but she didn't want it to be too silver, if that makes sense. Like she didn't want it to be gray. If anything, she would want it to be more of like maybe like an ash blonde silver. So in that case, I'm going to be using some demi permanents for this. And usually whenever I do any type of silvers, I usually ask my clients if they want it to look more on the grayer or violet side silver, or more of like an ash blonde natural side silver. And she chose a more ash blonde natural side silver. And the reason why I asked that is because I have I'll use like a demi-permanent formula on my clients for the ones that want to have like a more natural ash blonde look. But if they want something more gray, more kind of iridescent and like slight violet toned, then I'll use like a rapid toner for that. But since she wanted something more natural, I'm going to be using a demi-permanent line. And the reason why I'll use different lines for each thing is because the demi-permanent line will have like a background tone on top of their tones. So like for her, I'm gonna mix up like a level 9 ash and violet together to create like a really pretty silver and cancel everything out. But before that, I wanted to show you guys really quick how we would rinse out our tip outs. So our teases, I find the best way is to pull the foils, put water on the ends where the lightener is to rinse off the lightener, and then pretty much get a ton of conditioner and put it on top of the tease and separate with my hands first, and then go in with a brush to make it really less painful and just like really easy to brush out. And I find that this works for a lot of hair types and just makes it a whole lot easier when you're brushing out teases, because at this point your clients have been waiting with long foils for a long time, and you just really want to create a really relaxing experience for them. So I find that whenever I do tip outs, I try to make sure to be extra gentle, because I never want to make my client feel uncomfortable or feel like they're in pain when we are doing this part, because this part is pretty crucial, especially if they want something that is kind of like that ombre effect where like it gets darker and then lighter at the end. So I want to make sure that my clients trust me and that they have a pleasant experience as much as possible. So I try my best not to hurt them, and I always check in to make sure that they're comfortable and feeling okay during this process, because I know, like, for me, I am very tender-headed, so I always appreciate when someone takes extra care and attention to my tender head. So I try to treat every client like that, even if they're not tender headed, to just make sure that they're very comfortable in my chair and the whole experience is just very relaxing. Alrighty, so I'm going in with a demi-permanent line. I always do a shadow root. You guys know if you guys are new, so I always do a shadow root starting in the back, and I like to take vertical sections. I find I used to take horizontal sections of the head, and I took a color class and they said that vertical sections really blur out those lines. So ever since then, I've been doing it vertically, and it's made a huge difference, especially if you're going to be doing a shadow root that is on the darker side and your highlights are this light. It's really good to kind of blur out those lines or anything in any type of way. So I've been doing it vertically, and I find that it is a little bit faster, but at the same time it just blends so much better. If you guys haven't tried it out and then let me know how you like it, but it's been a game changer ever since. Okay, so after we do her shadow root, we're going to be going in with that lighter formula, and I mixed up a level 9 for both, but I mixed up a level 9 ash and then a level 9 violet. And this is going to create something that is going to be more on the softer, more ashier, slightly silver side to try and cancel out a lot of this yellow, but not going to be something that is going to be too ashy on her. So again, she wanted to be slightly on the silvery side, but not too silver. If anything, more closer to an ash blonde. And I chose this because the level 9, because it's at a level 9, it has like a slight background tone of like a tannish color in addition to that ash and violet. If it was like a rapid toner, I find that rapid toners don't have background tones, like it doesn't have a level to it, it just has straight tone. So that's great for someone if they want something more iridescent, but since she said the words ash blonde, I was like, okay, she wants something a little bit more on the natural side, and usually a demi line that has like levels to it will give you something that is more on the natural side because of that level background tone, which is like, in my opinion, something a little bit more tannish and beige, in addition to the ash and the violet. And when I say ash, ash typically means blue. Alrighty guys, here is the finished look. Oh my god, it looked so gorgeous. She was really happy with the end result, and considering that she had so much regrowth and we were able to get her ends nice and like blended with the root, I feel like this is gonna grow out so beautiful. This client lives, I would say, over an hour away from me, so it's really not convenient or easy for her to come in, but this is gonna fade out really pretty because she lifted so light. It's just gonna fade into like a blonde tone, and then it's gonna grow out really soft. You can see we didn't give her that money piece, so that her roots are gonna grow in, and everything's just gonna look so beautiful no matter how long she waits. And that was really the goal for today, so I was really happy with it. So she could use purple shampoo to maintain it, but as you guys can see, like from that clip of when I was pulling out her foils and what she was lifted to, honestly, I feel like even if she didn't use purple shampoo, this is going to fade out really pretty, because you saw how blonde her underlight had faded from her last time that she was in, and I feel like it still looked, honestly, really pretty. So totally up to her. The only thing I always tell my clients is make sure your hair is moisturized, because even though your hair feels good today, like right after your color's done, if you don't moisturize it, or like you let it get too dry in between appointments, that's when the breakage will occur, because it'll get knotted and then start breaking, and when you brush out those really big knots, it's like an endless cycle. So I always make sure the key is to keep your hair moisturized. But anyways, that is it for this week's episode, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in, and as always, I will talk to you guys next week.